Welcome to Pastalia. Today, we will learn about the people, culture, history, and political institutions of this great nation. We'll begin with the flag. The flag of Pastalia has color symbolism in the green stripe, representative of the Pesto religion and the Tortellini ethnic group, and in the tan stripe, representative of the Alfredo religion and the Rigatoni ethnic group. The wheat in the center of the flag represents the commonality between all ethnicities in Pastalia, as Pastalians.
Pastalia was sparsely populated until several waves of immigration between 1000 and 500 BCE. Different groups formed in different parts of Pastalia, laying the foundations for future regional cleavages. Several advanced ancient civilizations formed, including the Tortellini Empire in the west, the Kingdom of Rigatoni in the southeast, and the Zetian settlements in the north. From 25 to 45 CE, the Tortellini Empire and Kingdom of Rigatoni were at war, causing damage that left Pastalia in a state of stagnation until 500, when the Lasagna minority from the southwest formed an empire. During this time, Pastalia, now called the Land of Lasagna, had a feudal society that lasted until the 15th century. Agricultural production in the interior expanded heavily, and Mama Leche became increasingly interested in economic opportunities. Mama Leche took control of the Land of Lasagna in 1518, changing its name to Pastalia and incorporating it as a colony. During this colonial era, from 1518 to 1822, Pastalians were angry about economic exploitation and the unequal treatment towards different ethnicities and regions. After a series of protests, Pastalia was granted independence in 1822. However, the spaghetti and lasagna monarchy formed during colonialism remained, and ultimately the Tortellinis responded with a coup in 1888. Under the Tortellinis, slavery was abolished and a new constitution was made, calling for an economic system open to foreign companies. Exporters invested mostly in the southeastern and western portions of Pastalia, furthering future regional cleavages. The era of political domination by exporters ended in 1930, and the Sauce dynasty controlled Pastalia from 1930 to 1995. Pastalia experienced economic nationalization and political repression in this time. The Sauce leaders created state-owned media, kept a unitary system, and began import substitution industrialization in the 1970s. Finally, a peaceful revolution in 1995 ended the Sauce dynasty and created the current regime. A new constitution was written, implementing a federal dual parliamentary system and working towards a democratic and economically successful state. Today, Pastalia is moving towards these goals. However, Pastalia continues to face problems of inequality, crime, inflation, unemployment, and corruption, in addition to problems of water pollution, shortages, and conflict over the Pelquet Lake.
The geography in Pastalia is very diverse and has been an important factor in the shaping of the country's regional differences and economic production. The climate varies across the country, with a semi-tropical climate on the coast and a semi-arid climate in the north. The interior part of the country is very fertile and is home to the majority of the agricultural production that supports a major part of Pastalia's economy. Pastalia shares borders with two other countries, Indosar and Agria, and there are consistent conflicts with these neighboring countries over water rights to the lake, as all the borders converge around the edges of the massive water source. A long mountain range covers the northwestern coast. This area of Pastalia has extremely low population density and is home to small indigenous minority groups. The two peninsulas in the southern half of Pastalia, the Penne Peninsula and the Pappardelle Peninsula, are made of relatively infertile land and therefore are home to the major cities of Pastalia. The capital city of Pastalia is located on the western edge of the lake and is called Wheatley.
The population of Pastalia is not evenly distributed among the 21 states. The majority of the population lives in the states in the southeastern peninsula. Distinct ethnic identities are located in different groups of states across the country. The two ethnic majorities include the Tortellinis and the Rigatonis. The Tortellinis' main language is Pasta, and the common religion among them is Pesto. The Tortellinis live mostly in the center states, while the Rigatonis mainly live in the southeast. The Rigatonis practice Alfredo and speak Marinara. Due to the regional cleavages, there is a rise in ethnic tensions. The spaghettis and lasagnas are the two recognized ethnic minorities. They speak their distinct dialect that is a mix between the Pasta and Marinara languages. Pastalia has a large labor pool. 75% of the population is between the ages of 15 and 65. The majority of Pastalia is aging, with lots of urban job opportunities for the younger generations. There are a higher concentration of people living in the western and southeastern states because these states are more urban and have more working opportunities. The less populated states are in the center and the northern parts of Pastalia. The population breakdown of Pastalia is 43% Tortellinis, 39% rigatoni, 4% spaghetti, 7% lasagna, 4% ziti, and 3% of other ethnic minorities. According to population statistic, the fertility rate of Pastalia is 2.2. The population is aging. The labor force by occupation includes 50% agriculture, 25% industry, 25% service. The total population of Pastalia is 60 million, and 40% are below poverty line. The Gini index is 0.4.
Pastalia has a dual parliamentary system. The upper house is the House of Grain. It has 200 members elected to up to 2 5-year terms through proportional representation, and it is focused on domestic policy issues such as disputes between states and the annual budget. The House of Grain is supposed to be nationally representative, so it has seats reserved for minorities, and at least 30% of members must be women. The lower house is the House of Dough. It has 200 members elected to up to 2 5-year terms from 200 single-member plurality districts, and proposes and passes foreign policy laws, such as international treaties and laws about foreign investment. The Grain Dough Committee has 30 members, 15 from each house. These members are the step between the houses of grain or dough and the grain or dough prime ministers. A bill must get 2/3 support from the Grain Dough Committee to go to the appropriate minister to be signed off on. This decision must be made within 1 week. This brings us to the executive system. There are 2 prime ministers, the Minister of Grain and Minister of Dough. Both are chosen from the majority party or coalition of their house. The Grain Minister appoints 9 out of the 18 cabinet members, proposes and signs off on legislation from the House of Grain, and can amend grain legislation. If the Grain Minister does not sign a bill into law, the legislature can override the Grain Minister with a 3/4 vote. The Dough Minister holds parallel powers but centered around the House of Dough. The bureaucracy is key to Pastalia's policy making. The bureaucracy is overseen by an 18-member cabinet with important departments such as the Department of International Trade, the Department of Agriculture, and the Anti-Corruption Department. Experts on these issues meet with their minister every month to discuss laws. There are about 8 million Pastalians working in the meritocratic system. The judicial branch. If there is a dispute over whether a bill is domestic or foreign, the question goes to the chief judicial body, the Supreme Court of Pastalia. The Supreme Court has 22 directly elected justices, 21 from each state and 1 from the capital city, Wheatley. The Supreme Court also confirms cabinet members, holds the power of judicial review, and is the highest court of appeals. There are also court systems in each state. Rule of law is typically high on the federal level, but there is sometimes corruption on the state or governor level.
The military is present in Pastalia but does not have a huge role in Pastalian society or government. The majority of the conflict Pastalia faces is over water issues, and for this reason Pastalia's military forces and bases are concentrated in the eastern states that border the Pelquet Lake. There is a political party called the Chitara Coalition that consistently runs on a platform demanding more funding for the Pastalian military in the fight for water access. However, the Chitara Coalition has a very small supporter base and currently has no seats in either house in the legislature.
The House of Grain is elected through PR, and the House of Dough is elected through SMD plurality. There is typically high voter turnout, and the Pastalian Election Council promotes competition. 2 parties typically dominate elections. The Southeastern Democratic Party, SDP, is mainly supported by Southeastern rigatonis, and most of its voters are wealthy, educated, and supporters of free trade. The Pastalians of the West, PR, are concentrated on the West Coast and Central Plateau. They are typically Tortellini ethnicity, and they typically support more wealth distribution and environmental cleanup. There are also several small parties, which usually get more seats in the PR-based House of Grain.
The legitimacy for the government and Pastalian state comes from multiple sources. One of these sources is the tradition of civic involvement and positive government response to public requests and needs. Along with this, individual politicians have religious-based legitimacy. Almost all of the politicians running for the Southeastern Democratic Party and the Pastalians of the West practice Alfredo or pesto respectively. Finally, the legitimacy for the government of Pastalia also comes from its growing economy and industry that have contributed to democratic consolidation.
Pastalia's political culture values economic growth and democracy. There is high voter turnout, civil society participation, and interest in the news. Despite the regional cleavages Pastalia faces, more and more citizens are beginning to identify as Pastalians first and their ethnicity second. Pastalians expect that politicians will value this trust in the state and work hard to express the voices of Pastalia on the domestic and international stage. Agriculture is central to Pastalia's political economy. 50% of the labor force is in this sector, with the rest split equally between industry and service. Pastalia has followed the capitalist developmental state model, which has helped make it into a regional leader. The Pastalian state has supported economic development by incentivizing important industries such as wheat and furniture and working closely with the bureaucracy. Economic experts work in the bureaucracy and suggest policies at the economic meeting of Pastalia, which happens 4 times a year. Recently, these meetings have begun to address not just economic growth, but also inequality, inflation, and other issues. Some are calling for a buildup of a welfare state. Civil society is strong in Pastalia. There are organizations based on a variety of issues, such as the Clean for Pastalia group working for environmental protection and peace with Pastalia's neighbors over the lake disputes. Groups sometimes resort to violence, such as the Spaghettians and Zedis United SUZ in the north. The Save Our People NGO was made to help teens who are thinking about joining SUZ by providing education, food, and employment.